Welcome to today's podcast interview. I brought on Derick Johnson. Derick, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Heather. Pleasure being here.
I'm excited to have you because I haven't had someone with your background, but I'd love for you to share, the Army, the fitness, where you're at today. But for those that are new to you, where do you live and what do you do?
I live in Panama City, Panama. My girlfriend and I are expats. So every couple of months and years, we'll go move somewhere. We don't have kids yet, so we just bounce around. But what I do now, I help people identify old patterns that don't serve them so they can thrive in all areas and not just feel like they're surviving. So an example is the guy that dominates it in sales, but he's had 3 divorces. The guy that has a 7 or 8 figure business, but binge drinks or does drugs, etc., or just the person that they're doing well financially and physically, but they are not fulfilled. And they're like, there has to be something else. Like I have the house, I have the marriage, I have the kids, but I feel empty. Working with these individuals to pinpoint like, where did this come from? Did you go a wrong path? So basically helping them enhance the parts that they feel that they pushed into the closet or under the rug so they can feel like they can breathe again and really own more than just 1 or 2 areas of their life. And then that way their people can feel it as well and they're way more present. So that's mainly what I do now. The other side is fitness coaching. So helping people get into the best shape or improve their relationship with food. But it's more so on a deeper psychological level where childhood trauma, limiting beliefs, etc.
Yeah. Well, and something I shared with you before we started recording, I feel a good personal trainer not only teaches nutrition and weights and workouts, but does with the emotional mental aspect of it. And you shared that with me. And so what you just touched on, the psychological piece, because I shared with you,
Yes.
I see a lot of people. I have a free resource on my website, the life assessment. And I would say, I don't quite know the percentage, but more than not. So the majority of people on the assessment I see, I want to lose weight. I want to get healthier. And we're so body focused. But can you please explain why the mental aspect is, well, I think it's more important.
Exactly. 100%. So I totally agree with you. And the main reason is because people, they try to place confidence or happiness or whatever positive feeling on the end goal. The scale is going to say 140. My bank account is going to say XYZ. My relationship is going to be this. This finger will have a ring on. Like whatever their thought is of happiness.
Yeah.
And if they get there, but they haven't fallen in love with the person that they are inside and out, then they're not going to be fulfilled. So what they're missing is number one, eliminating past things, whether it's limiting beliefs, traumas, preconceived notions of other people, like all these assumptions, whatever it is, slowly getting rid of those things, but falling in love with the person that they become in the journey. So always focus on the who. Too many people focus on the how and the what. How do I get to this? How fast can I do that? How fast can we do this in business and lose weight? It's more so like, all right, I understand that. Let's slow down. Who do you have to become to earn these things? That solid relationship, that successful business. The who is most important.
Yeah. Okay, there's two things I want to touch on there. And then I want to deep dive this idea of survival versus thriving mentality because I talk about
Yes.
it a lot. But two things you touched on because I resonated. These are my words, so I want to see if it's similar to you, but I call that conditional living. I'll be happy when I go on vacation. I'll be happy when I make more money, when I get in a relationship, when the next, because I've been there, done that. And guess what? I love how Abraham Hicks says this. You cannot have a happy ending with an unhappy journey.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about, especially in fitness, this idea of who do you have to become? And Dispenza says it a lot, but believe, behave, become. And I want to
Yes.
hear your process, your perspective, because that's really what I do coaching too. It's same thing. It's I coach my clients through version 2.0. But
Love
I
it.
want to hear how you do it because I talk about you have to get so aware, so clear on who you have been. And then you have to create that vision of who you want to be and experience and whatever. And then you got to bridge the
Yes.
gap. So what do you do?
What I do, step one, is first we do an elimination process. So we grab a sheet of paper. I do everything old school, no apps, anything of that nature.
Yeah.
So we first start with a conversation and we write out a list of things. What can I eliminate that is not getting me the results that I want or slowing me down? What could I eliminate that's not getting me the results that I want or slowing me down? Usually it's the smallest things. Maybe he wants to quit smoking. Maybe they binge scroll too much and they go down a TikTok rabbit hole and they waste 2 hours a day. Maybe it's intrusive thoughts. Maybe it's their friend circle or their family and they're still in their hometown and they're like, I'm having these limiting beliefs. So whatever it is, writing out those lists of things. You know what? I need to drink more spring water instead of Milo sweet tea. I need to do this during my lunch break. I need to not have gossip conversations, whatever particularly it is for that individual. What can they eliminate first? So I always focus on that, because getting rid of stuff first before we update the schedule, add to the routine, add anything on it. If that person's already overwhelmed and feel like they're drowning in incomplete tasks, it's not going to be effective at all. So we first start elimination process, and sometimes we can simply replace it. And it's not going cold turkey on everything, but it's more so clarity. Everything is designed to give them clarity when they're like, you know what? I have been doing this a long time. Or after 9 p.m., I'm in and out of the fridge on Uber Eats, on DoorDash. So pinpointing their elimination, and then back to what you said, getting crystal clear on what they want, but actually writing it out, where the challenge is not to say, think, or write a vague statement. I want to become successful. I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. I want to build a legacy. Things sound great, but there's no emotional connection to it. So if they can get crystal clear using all five senses, okay, that's amazing. How much do you want to see in your checking, in your savings, and whatever their investment is? And taking the time. So step one, elimination list. And then step two, exactly step by step, how they want to feel, how they want to look, who they're going to help, where they live, how the relationship is. Do they have kids? Do they not? Do they have dogs? Getting hyper clear and aware of exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And that's the first two steps. And then three, we focus on what is your current morning routine. I'm a huge component of morning routine, because most people, they're reactive all day long. They wake up, hit snooze, they wake up, scroll, they've been in bed 30 minutes, anxiety goes up, I'm late, calls, texts, emails, traffic, slow Wi-Fi, and then they're just like, it's not even 10 a.m. Can I have some time for me? And they screw their energy like for the rest of the day. So starting with the elimination first, getting crystal clear, and dialing down their morning routine. And with the morning routine, it's not about stacking it, doing five different things, ice bath, this, that, this, that.
Yeah.
A lot of things on social media are extreme. I always recommend choosing two things, one for the body, one for the mind. It could just be walking their dog and then pray, hitting the gym and then meditation. Just choosing two things, because some people, they do too many to get that endorphin hit, and the rest of the day they're not productive at all. And they're like, well, my morning routine, I do these 18 things. And you're like, awesome, you've been in the same spot for a year. How is this helping you? So that's definitely what I focus on, are those three things: eliminate, crystal clear, and prime their day with their morning routine.
I love that. And it's funny you bring that up because I don't know, it was probably a year or two ago. I had a podcast guest on and he was sharing his 28-step morning routine. And he
Jeez.
wasn't kidding. He was not kidding. He has an Excel spreadsheet, a 28-step morning routine. And I was like, oh, well, if you're traveling or you just don't have the time, what are like the 3 to 5 things that are your non-negotiables? And he was like, 28-step morning routine. It's like, do you, boo? But question for you on that. And
Yes.
semantics, they do have power, right? The meaning we put behind the words. But for me, I intentionally do not use the word routine. I use morning ritual, because in
Love it.
my perspective, a ritual is an intentional practice, where a
Yes.
routine, you can derive the word literally rut from it,
Yes.
because
I
then it
like that.
becomes monotony and automatic, and like you're no longer like, you're just going through the motions.
Yes.
So now that you brought that up, I want to hear, what are your daily routines? What are your must-haves, non-negotiables? How and what are you doing, because you're human, to stay
Yes.
forward focused, to prime, to prep, to have that clear vision?
Yes, for sure. So, step one, I wake up at the exact same time 7 days a week, which is 4 a.m. So, it's not as a challenge, it's not
Yeah.
as a test. It's more so I like the calmness of the
Mm,
early morning.
mm,
So, I'm prior military, and then also grew up with my dad in the army, and my mother was also up at 4 or 5. So, I've seen that all my life, and I fell in love with that quietness of between
mm.
like 4 and 6. So,
Yeah.
it's always been that way. So, it's not like I don't even push it on social media. I'm not like 4 a.m. club. It's more so this is what I do, may not be what works for others. But step one, 4 a.m., go to the kitchen, drink some water. And I try to be as present as possible while I'm drinking. So I could feel the water. My eyes are closed, feel it going down. My pit bull is eating her kibble. I hear the clanging and banging. I'm thinking about it. Got the water. I'm grateful for God. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm blessed. So before I do anything else, I'm just present using all of my senses, literally just
Mm.
standing in my kitchen, drinking water at 4:05 while the dog's eating. So my intent is to be present in the moment. And then from there, I post a positive quote on my story. And it's just a thought that pops in. I don't consume, I just create. I post it on every app, and then I go along my process. So I'm hydrating, I'll walk my dog. And then from there, I run to the gym, do a workout, and then I run back. And then I start my work day. So it's literally just hydration, prep for the gym, workout, come back, shower, and then prepare my day. Because I like to do it once my mind is open. I don't plan my day the night before because I do so much in a day that at night I would be annoyed writing that list. So I like to do it after a workout. I'm excited and I'm intentional, and I'll see this list different than if I wrote it the night before, where I'm like, all right, it's 9 p.m. I've been on like 15 calls. I've done this and this. Like, I'm not going to be excited writing this list. So step one, the hydration and being present, showing gratitude. Step two, I run to the gym. Step three, come home, have like 10 or 15 minutes before I start work. And then from there, hit the ground running. And most important in that process is the day that I don't feel like getting up or don't want to do anything, I say out loud and in my head, people depend on me. And what I mean by
Mm.
that is I have to have my morning process because energy and frequency is real and people will feel that. So if I don't get up until 7 and I have a call at 7:30, they're gonna be like, "Hey, Derick, are you okay? You seem a little bit out of it." I don't want to be like, "Oh yeah, I woke up late, didn't have my morning process," and I just don't put myself in that situation. So I always make sure to have at least one solid hour for myself and then go from there. And it's just amazing because staying consistent with that, you just build that discipline where it is on autopilot, but it's also empowering the day.
Okay, I just wrote that down. What you said is people depend on me. So that sounds like it's your
Yes.
why, it's your strong why. Because I wanted to
Yes.
ask you, for me, I consider entrepreneurship personal development on steroids. That's
Oh
what I
yeah,
call it.
100%.
Yeah, and because I come from corporate. I worked in corporate for a decade in multiple industries, and whether I was working or kind of like dicking around, to be honest, I always got a paycheck. So,
Yes.
corporate is good for that. It's stability, it's comfort, it's the known. But for me, it was monotonous and I could no longer do it. Being an entrepreneur, you can be creating content and doing all the things. And there are periods, at least my experience, the ebb and flow of income or not. And so,
Yes.
how, imagine you've experienced that. You're human too. So, how do you, because I know a lot of people listening, I think as humans, we all experience self doubt, self-sabotage behaviors like procrastination, inconsistency. We talk ourselves out of greatness instead of into it. So what are you
Yes.
doing to stay on top of that? I truly believe we're creators of our reality. And
100%.
I love the idea, the mirror principle, that our external reality is simply reflecting our internal state. As an example, money is a big one for people. So the money in your bank account, your current bank account, is a reflection of your wealth consciousness.
Exactly.
Rich get poorer. Rich get richer, poor get poorer. And
Yes.
so, what are you doing to stay on top of this? Because, I mean, you are human and maybe you have days where you feel defeated or you don't feel like it. So, what are you doing?
Great question. So the first thing that I do, I go extreme. So step one, I say people depend on me. So I say I have to take care of myself first to show up better for others. And it's a selfless service. So one of the core values, one of my favorite in the US Army, was selfless service. When I take care of me, I can take care of my soldiers, my people, my clients, society, whoever's on social media, and they can feel that energy.
Mhm.
Outside of that is in the moment where I don't feel like doing something and the human side comes up, I
Yeah.
go dark and I think of my great great grandfather. Um, my dad's from Mississippi. So, African American male in Mississippi, we know the history of that state. On the flip side, my mother, she's German. So, I think of my Oma hiding in the attic, surviving the Holocaust. So, I think of her, I think of him, and then I go to my present moment and say, I don't feel like getting on a call. I don't feel like doing this thing. Like they went through hell for me to be here. What am I even complaining about? Slow Wi-Fi and that I have a busy schedule. So it really humbles me. And then I just get take action. And from there, I'm like, I have zero reason to complain at all. And I'm not saying that works for everybody, but that's what I do. I probably have to do it once every couple of months that version. But in those moments, I literally just start laughing because I'm like, what am I even stressing about right now?
Oh,
Like they literally survived this and this. If they didn't go through that, I wouldn't even be here. So for me, I never make things bigger than they are. And I feel like society, they do that thing, but it's because of human nature. We're designed to be in protective mode, survivor mode, where it's me. Why me, God? Sometimes we just have to pause and zoom out to look at our gratitude. But those are two of the things that I do. Besides that is conscience congruency. So when somebody just stacks wins, as in I drank the water, I worked out, I did this, all the small minuscule things that they think doesn't have much meaning, all you're doing essentially is just stacking wins. I try to stack as many wins as I can until 10 a.m. And in my head, I'm just like, holy shit, I've done like 45 things this morning,
yeah.
just in regards to like workflow or helping people and all that. And I just ride that high and I'm literally just excited. So building that confidence and earning that confidence, opposed to like just thinking positive thoughts or getting lost in the manifestation and this, but not actually doing the work, but
Yeah.
making sure that I'm taking care of me. If I have to tap into another perspective, I do that if needed. And then most important is to think that people depend on me. If I don't show up and make this video, somebody's going to commit suicide. Like I literally tell myself these things. And when I make that video, even if I'm angry, I'll get a message. Somebody's like, dude, I needed that. Your intensity was so. And an hour before, I'm like, I didn't feel like making this video, but I showed up authentically with
Mm,
no filter. And somebody felt that, where it's amazing what happens just showing up and showing all versions of ourselves.
yeah. Okay, here's what I love about that. You said stacking wins, which is funny. Before you even went down that idea, that was the I was going to ask you, how do you stack? How do you celebrate? And that's something I
Yes.
worked on with my clients. I've worked with some very successful multimillionaire men, and men especially do not celebrate. And so I'll just share with you what I do, and I'd love to hear what you do. So from watching Selling Sunset on Netflix. So for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Selling Sunset, it's based in LA. It's very glam, multi-million dollar properties, and so it's these
Yes.
really good looking people out there selling, and they make it look so luxurious. But what I love about Selling Sunset is they celebrate their closings, they celebrate their wins, and they have this huge gold bell that they go ring the bell. And that alone, ringing the bell, it makes me think of Pavlov's dogs. Like you're ringing the bell, you are anchoring that in your mind. And so I literally on Amazon bought like a hand ringing bell, and I
Nice.
celebrate new clients, a new YouTube subscriber. When somebody messaged me, hey, that I really needed that message, I am celebrating all the freaking time to keep me going. So I want to hear what you're doing.
I love that. So I do a similar thing. So during quarantine, when everyone was at home, is I went all out on the coaching business because I knew people are going to binge eat, they're going to drink more, spousal abuse is going to go up, all these negative things and reactions were going to
Yeah.
skyrocket. So I said, it is my duty to go all out and help these people because when they work together, excuse me, when we work together, they're going to come out of this much better, while
Yeah.
most of society is going to come out either the same or worse. So
Yeah.
with that being said, I started a lot of this in regards to stacking wins because everybody was at home. I would buy one item from my favorite clothing brands. So I was working at home and I was working out. So I'd go to Lululemon or Under Armour. And that one particular tank top or shorts or whatever it was, I remember that I would get it because I helped someone do X. I did Y, I did Z, everything related to something positive, which what you mentioned, whether it's a sale, whether it's a follower or subscriber, but I stacked wins, as in I would buy one article of clothing from these brands and not 7 days a week. But what would happen is when I would put that shirt on, I would literally have a flashback in the moment. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I got this. And I would literally would smile, my whole body language would shift, and
Yeah.
then I would just see this closet differently or whatever I put on. So that's one thing that I would do. Another thing that I would do, my girlfriend and I love food, so we'll go out to eat all the time. We'll celebrate just by enjoying it by sitting by the water and just like being
Mm,
present. And I love seeing people passionate about what they're doing. So if it's a sushi chef and you can just tell his body language, he's really into what he's doing, I'll start asking him questions. I'm like, hey, why'd you torch that one and not this one? He's like, oh, let me tell you. And then he goes on the spiel. And like, I just love seeing the excitement of people in their zone of genius.
mm,
And I just ask people deep questions about why they're doing that thing. So that's my version of celebrating. So it could be a particular item. It could be an experience at a restaurant and just knowing that this meal means that we won or did something great. Another thing is I simply ask people. The number one question I ask everybody, my friends, my clients, my followers, is what wins have you had today? What wins have you had this month? And it always catches people off guard. I ask everybody this, and they're like, huh, I'm alive. And for a lot of people, it's hard for them to even answer the question because
Yeah.
maybe they're not at their goal, maybe they're not making progress. But those are some things that I do: items, experiences, and asking others what their wins are to raise their level of excitement.
I love that. Something you sort of touched on, but I'd like to talk about it more because I think it's really important to get out of that autopilot, living what I call living life by default or by design. Can we talk
Yes.
about what it means to be proactive versus reactive and what
Yes.
individuals can do daily to become more proactive in their life rather than that constant knee-jerk reaction?
Yes, for sure. So one thing that I like to first start off with is I recommend people do two things in the morning, one for the body, one for the mind. So the body obviously could be a workout, a walk, a jog, whatever they choose, and whatever the level of fitness is. For the mind, choosing one thing to do it for a month. It might be praying every day. It might be meditation. It might be journaling. It might be visualization. My favorite is visualizing. I'll just imagine version 10.0, what I'm doing, feeling everything, whether it's a happy tear, whether it's excitement, whether it's healing that inner child, whatever it is, that's my thing. But in regards to that is figuring out where they are, figuring out where they want to go, and figuring out how they want to feel. So literally setting themselves in
Mm,
each part of the process and envisioning them doing that thing. So an example could be if they played baseball. Like I have a client, he used to be a catcher. And in order to get present behind the plate, behind the mound, he would pinch his fingernail into his finger to like snap him into the moment before a 90 mile per hour fastball comes. So I'm bringing this up because if somebody played sports in the past or did something competitive, there was some ritual, body movement, language that they used to get them hyped up, focused, or quiet. So,
mm,
like one person, they're very still, they do subtle movements. Somebody else might have the hoodie on and put the headphones in and blast Linkin Park and Eminem. The other guy or the girl, they might need to just get loose and just bounce on their feet. Like
yeah,
Tony Robbins, that's how he primes before he gets on stage.
yeah.
I'm bringing this up because whatever that individual did in the past is going to work today, tomorrow, or literally for the rest of their life because their subconscious doesn't know. Is it game time? Is it time to hit this heavy deadlift? Is it time to get in a boxing ring? Is it time to protect my family? But if there was some ritual that they already did, they can utilize that to their advantage. So, yes, it's great to learn new things and all that, but sometimes we can just look back and say, what helped me get into a powerful state in the past? When I played college ball, when I was in the military, when that person crushed 3 straight months of sales numbers, and they're like, there's something that I did. If they can identify those things, they can rinse and repeat those
Yeah.
in any area of their life before they try something new. And they can just say, hey, here's historical data and proof that I killed it. Let me just reintroduce these rituals into my present moment.
That made me think of, and I literally heard it this week, but even standing in the Wonder Woman stance, just that
Yes.
really proud confidence, chest out, like that alone, getting in, and what you're talking about, which is a big thing Tony Robbins teaches, is getting in that state, but it's the emotional state. So that confidence, that high vibe, the feeling, and
Yes.
then taking action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if somebody has more control of their state, so if they catch themselves drooping, they're like, hey, it's 2 p.m. I normally need a nap, or I normally need this, or they normally start to scroll. Do something. Step one to change that state is move the body. They can
Right.
shake their arms. For all of my clients, I teach them this and I just challenge them to do it at least a couple times a month. I just tell them to stop for a second and just bark. And at first, they're like, what are you talking about? Like bark? I'm like, yes, bark like an aggressive dog. And at first, they're like, what do you? I'm like, let's do it together. We're going to do it three really quick. And then we go. And next thing they know, they hold their arm up and they're like, dude, I have chills. And I just like, I'm somewhere else. And I say, all we did was do like an air horn to your brain to interrupt the pattern of whatever rabbit hole the brain was about to go down. Limiting beliefs, negativity, anxiety, depression, like literally just barking. And I tell them, I'm like, it takes you 2 to 5 seconds to get into a focused state.
Yeah.
You don't need Red Bull. You don't need another cup of coffee. You don't need to pray for 20 minutes. Literally just change that state by barking and then getting hyper focused and then going on to the next thing. So I like abrupt, instant things because the individual that can control their state faster has more control of the outcome of their business, of their life, of everything. Another thing that I teach is a 10-minute window. So the 10-minute window would be, if we think of the analogy of a wave, a smooth wave, it goes up, it goes down. The best leaders, they are a smooth wave. They're calm, confident, and in control. They're that smooth wave. They never get overly excited. They never get too low. They're usually just happy medium. We're not saying they're not happy, but they're usually more focused. So if this person closes the biggest deal in business today, they're not going to celebrate for 3 days straight. Most people, they'd be like, I need to book a one-way ticket and this, and then they lose that momentum because they
Mm-hmm.
party or they just spend too much time with family for too long.
Mm-hmm.
This individual, they're like, this is awesome. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to go have dinner, but it's back to the drawing board tomorrow morning. On the flip side is, if somebody feels in a low state, how long does it take them to come back up? 10 minutes, 2 days, 1 week? Because sometimes we can get stuck in that state, whether it's too high or too low. So the
Mm-hmm.
10-minute rule is going to be just to bring yourself back up or bring yourself back down where you have control so you can focus on the rest of the day. Even if the workflow is done and you're like, I just need to be present at dinner with my family. Can I get rid of this anger of whatever happened with business within 10 minutes to be present with them by 6:30 p.m.? And that challenge right there, when normally they would bring that version of them to dinner and everybody's like, whoa, what's going on here? Because you're just radiating that anger, giving yourself a 10-minute window to release. So some things they could do in that moment is step outside, nature. They can do grounding, take off their shoes and socks. When was the last time most people gripped the sand, the grass in their backyard, or actually like followed a squirrel or a bird for 2 minutes and just were present in the moment? That's one thing. Another thing could be breathing modalities. Another thing could be prayer, moving the body, but just literally doing something to release. Another thing, especially for business owners, male and female, maybe you just need to cry for 2 minutes for no reason. Maybe there's so many built up emotions. You're like, I'm not sad at all, but I'm like boiling. I just need to release. And then they start laughing after that, where they're like, I don't know what just happened 5 minutes ago, but I feel amazing. Time to go to dinner. So I'm
Yeah.
bringing this up. These are all scenarios, 10-minute window. If somebody starts to give themselves a rule, they'll be surprised what they can make happen with their state within 10 minutes. We're not pretending. So I want to just preface this. We're not pretending anxiety, depression, real life things don't exist. We're not trying to ignore them. We're more so controlling our response, where we don't let a situation, a person, life, the economy, politics control our mood the rest of the day. So what can you do to come back up or come back down within 10 minutes?
Yeah. Well, and on that note, for me, it's about focusing on the controllables, because anytime you do
Yeah,
give your power away to the stock market, your boss, an email, a spouse, traffic, anything, you literally become victim to your circumstances and environment. And then you're
exactly.
powerless. And that's not
For
true.
sure.
Here's what
Exactly.
you shared with me. You study under Andy Frisella and Ed Milet in their
Yes.
I read
Arte.
Arate. I know, I
Arte.
never say it
Yes.
right. I love Ed Milet. I don't know a ton about Andy other than 75 Hard. So I would love for you to share maybe a little bit what that's about, but why, surrounding proximity is power, as Tony would say. But how important is it, your environment, who you surround yourself with, like-minded people?
It's crucial to your level of success, more
Yeah.
so for your mentality. Because if you feel like the black sheep in your family, in your group circle, or at work, and you have some fire, you have some momentum, one little side comment can slowly start to make you question your own fire, your own path.
Mhm.
And it usually starts with family, but it's more so about seeing proof. Humans have to see proof. So an analogy could be the first time a 5-minute mile was broken. Everybody said the heart's going to explode, the lungs can't handle it, that's not physically possible. A gentleman did it, and within a couple of weeks, 20 to 50 new people broke a 5-minute mile. So I'm bringing that up, or excuse
Or
me, 4-minute mile. I appreciate it. 4-minute mile. So with that example is, you just have to see proof of the male or female that has done exactly what you're aiming to do, or something very close. And you're
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, he's married and he has his business and he helps people and he has a business where people can scale and grow. And like, just seeing the proof, because we're told from family, professors, whoever, these type of people, they're only this. He's rich, but I bet he's got 5 divorces. Oh, I bet he has a cocaine problem, or I bet they have this and this. Or we always have these preconceived notions, but If we just see proof and meet these individuals, our whole mind is like, well, holy shit, I can do X, Y, Z. Here is the walking unicorn. And sometimes a person just needs to see that clarity where they're like, wow. And then they can absorb the information that they're teaching so much more because it's way different from somebody that's actually living it and doing it than the individual that's teaching from a book, a theory, and you look at their life, their body, their finances, every area, and you're like, yeah, they're not really living what they can
Yeah.
preach it, but it's
Yeah.
different. So step one is just finding those individuals that have already done what you're aiming to do. If somebody is in a rut or in a financial struggle and in a bind, unfollow every page that shows you something that you don't want to see and only follow individuals that get you excited and you're going to be inspired by them, where you control the algorithm rather than like comparing ourselves to others or seeing politics or arguing with your Uncle Jimmy on Facebook on some random video. Control the controllables with social media. Only follow individuals that motivate you and pump you up. So you can
Yeah.
start with that. Then you can join groups, programs, things of that nature. But it's more so who is walking proof, doing what I want to do, and do they live that thing? And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier is the who. Who is Andy? Who is Mel Robbins? Who is Tony Robbins? Who are these people? Are they just teaching fluff? Are they living what they preach or vice versa? But once somebody can see that, it just opens up their mind to a new world because they're like, wow, everyone here is just as excited as me. Everyone's here willing to learn, willing to work their ass off. I'm not used to being around these type of people. And that's the best
Yeah.
feeling because then you don't feel like the black sheep and you're like, wait, we can be a team and we're all gung ho. Oh, yeah, we're going to take over.
Well, and I think it even helps get into alignment. And I love how you shared find evidence that it's possible. Because, like you said, a lot of us are full of fear, lack, limitation, limiting beliefs. And if 80% of your daily thoughts tend to be negative until you become aware and live more consciously, mindfully, intentionally, then of course you're going to talk yourself out of stuff. But on that note, as
Exactly.
an example, I love Sarah Blakely. Do you know Sarah?
She
So,
sounds familiar. If I see her, I bet I will.
founder of Spanx.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So Sarah Blakely, what I love about her is this woman. I mean, she grew up in a healthy mentality and her parents pushing her and challenging her at a young age. But Sarah, she had a strong why to support women, literally and physically. But
Yes.
Sarah is a self-made billionaire. And I'm not saying like to have $1 billion, cool. It's not really a desire of mine, but I'm just, if I wanted to, she's an example that it's possible. Or for somebody else, oh, well, that person's making a living off of painting. Well, I could do that too. And finding this
Exactly.
evidence shifts your perspective. Like you said, oh, it's possible for them. Oh my gosh, time out. What's coming to my mind, have you seen the newer, I would imagine you have, the newer Top Gun Maverick?
Yes, I have.
All right, I have to go to the scene and hopefully you'll meet me there. But you know the scene in the movie where they've been training for weeks, they're on this crucial mission, short time to do it. Wasn't it like 2 or 3 minutes to get in and out of that valley?
Yes.
Okay, so it was a super short time going these crazy, they have to hit the target, they have to come out of this incline. Like it's a lot of these quote challenges and obstacles that seem impossible. And
Exactly.
they kept failing and failing and failing. So what did Maverick do? He got in the plane and he showed them it was possible. And he did it with time to spare, right?
Oh yeah.
So Maverick came in just like 4 minute mile rule, just like Roger Bannister did. Maverick came in and provided proof and created belief. And then we know how the movie ends. But the same thing in all of our lives, right? When you can create belief in yourself, and I'd love to hear how you do it. For me, I quote, build my mindset muscle doing endurance physical feats. I'm a
Yes.
big runner. I did a marathon. I've done triathlons. I push myself because I create mantras. I'm capable. I'm strong. I'm a finisher. Like I'm doing that on the pavement so I can do it in work and my personal life and everywhere else. So, what are you doing similarly to create belief and keep going?
Great question. So I relate a ton to that on a physical standpoint, is just not missing the morning routine of working out, whatever option that is for the workout, but it's more so just that self-trust. Do I trust myself to attack this next level of business? Yes, I do, because I have
Mhm.
400 days in a row proof of XYZ, where you're like, this guy doesn't quit, he's unstoppable. Like this is a walk in the park if you look at that. So that's how I see it is I don't let myself down. So I won't have any fear of what's going to happen in this meeting, this call, this relationship, like because the self-trust is there and you start to lose doubt. Where there's a phrase, one of my favorite phrases is delusional optimist. But I like to add to it the guy that's doing the work and the man and woman that are doing the work, but they believe in themselves so much, they don't know how they're going to get from A to Z, but they trust themselves because they have so much proof of how consistent they are that they're like, oh, it's always going to fall into place. Life is about to come full circle. It's already done. Time hasn't caught up yet. Like whatever higher power they believe in, they're like, I'm doing my part. I'm going to fall into this zone and it's going to happen. Like there's no questions asked.
Yeah.
But my morning process consists of the mind and the body. And so it's just pushing past thresholds. So let's just say this morning the gym was packed. So I did a totally different workout. People wake up super early here, more than in the States. So the gym was packed at 5 a.m. And so I changed up the workout. And I said, okay, yes, I'm annoyed. But two, hey, this whole corner is open. So I used the one cable and 3 dumbbells. And I was in that corner for 45 minutes. And I did all these different exercises. And when I walked out, I laughed and I said, I have so much more confidence than if the squat rack and this was open. It was a mental game where most people would have walked out and said, well, I got to come back later. Everything's taken. I said, no, we're going to get creative and have fun with this. Yes, I'm annoyed, but this is amazing. It's going to be an amazing workout. So that key example
Yeah.
of still attacking it and getting the end results, which is just the confidence and excitement. When you walk out, you're like, that was interesting. Not what I plan to do, but this is awesome. And you ride that high the rest of the day. So I love those moments. Also with the runs, things of that nature. So anytime that there's an obstacle, whether it's physical or mental, is just seeing it. Okay, this is what's happening. What now? Most people, they do the what if. If you catch yourself doing the what if, ask yourself, what now? What now? In this present moment, can I control about this? And then slowly that mind starts to say, oh, there's an issue, challenge accepted. I'm a professional firefighter. Watch this. We're going to get this shit out.
Yeah.
So it's more so the physical, but also playing a mental game of anything that pops up. I literally just say out loud, oh, I'm a professional firefighter. This is a walk in the park. And then like the problem gets solved so much faster rather than letting it weigh down on me or putting myself down. So it's more so the physical. And then the aspect of the mental is the mental game, just to remind yourself that, hey, you can do anything. Like look at the historical data and proof of what you've been through. This is nothing.
Okay, so you just summed it up really great right there. The mental game. I love your mentality. Clearly, you're living very mindfully, very intentionally, non-negotiables. You have structure, you have consistency. And I believe people who are listening and watching to this, if they're not already doing those, I mean, this is the how you get inspired and motivated. It is time to take action. And my big thing is, I do not believe knowledge alone is power. Application is, implementation is. And so what I want to ask you is, I'm sure it took some training and a lot of quote setbacks, but how have you gotten into this mental state now? And what can you offer somebody who's like feeling inspired and motivated, but it's like just the one thing? What's the one thing you're going to do?
I appreciate it. So great question. With that one thing would be, what is the thing that's going to move the needle forward the most? So for most people, it is their physicality. They feel like they're not doing well in business. If they look at themselves and say, would I listen to myself? If I had to watch a video of myself, would I listen to that man or woman? And if they're completely honest, non-judgmental, and they're just blunt with themselves and say, you know what? He needs to get in better shape or she needs to show up earlier for the group. So being raw, transparent, and honest with themselves, because they have to be able to push pride and ego aside. That's a huge issue with alpha females, A-type personality, business entrepreneurs, and all that. Sometimes that pride and ego is in the way where we just have to pause and say, you know what? Maybe I need help with this. Maybe I suck at this, or I need to get better at that. So first, zooming out to look at yourself. What is the main thing that I need to do? Is it to lose weight? Is it to gain weight? Is it to show up earlier? Is it, hey, this person sucks at sales and that's why they're not hitting the number? Or do they have limiting beliefs? And that's why when they say the price, nobody moves forward. So really identifying what is that one thing that is holding them back from that next level. And sometimes they might be crushing all areas where they just say, it's lack of knowledge. I don't know how to get to the next level. Like I've checked all these boxes, but starting with that for that person to get clarity, if they can pinpoint and be transparent with themselves to say, what area am I deficient in? and finding the resources, the coaches, the tools, the groups, whatever they need to get that information or to get that end result. So somebody can start with that before they try to attack everything. It's always better because it goes back to the who. Would I even listen to me?
Yeah.
And I say that to my guys sometimes. I'm like, would you listen to you? And if it takes them more than 2 seconds to answer, they're like, nah. And then I say, hey, that's good. Step one is the awareness and speaking up about yourself. What do you have to do to become that individual that you would actually listen to? And then they can write those things out. It's an uncomfortable conversation for most people. But once they can do that, everything that's already there is already in their mind. So it's not like they have to search for this new idea, new modality or strategy. They can just be open, honest, and blunt with themselves and say, I wouldn't even listen to myself. So what do I need to do to become that individual?
Yeah. Believe, behave, become.
Oh, yeah.
You shared with me your tagline. Can you please share it here?
Yes, for sure. So I help people identify patterns that are not serving them. We break those so they can thrive and not just survive. Thrive and not just survive.
Yes, I love that. I was looking at the time. I was like, shoot, I got to get to wrapping it up. I'd love to talk with you so much longer, but on that
No
note,
worries, no worries.
what do you believe is a key takeaway you want listeners to get?
Own their morning process and their reaction to things. So,
Mm,
what is one or two things that you can do in your morning that puts you in an empowered state? And
yeah.
if they don't know, look at the historical data. Maybe the best shape they were in college. And it's not about the body, but thinking about what got you there. Maybe they got up at a specific time. If they can rinse and repeat that before they learn anything new, they can get back into that zone. Maybe there's a playlist that they used to listen to. And they're like, you know what? I haven't listened to that in a while. I haven't done this. I haven't put those shoes on. If they put themselves back into that mental frame, they can get back in that zone and they start laughing where they're like, wow, I haven't felt this level of confidence in years. So that's one. Another thing could just be to remind themselves that there are things out of our control, but what I can control, I just need to eliminate the things that are slowing me down and slowly getting those things off.
Yeah. And back to that 3-step process. I love that you shared earlier. Eliminate clarity in that morning routine. I love, and I mean, guys, 3 things, right? Big
Yeah,
things that can completely transform your life. So here's what I want to do to wrap up the interview. I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
perfect.
What is a quote or motto that you live by?
I was gonna be blunt. Don't be a little bitch.
Okay. That's one way. Do you say that to yourself?
Yeah, I literally just laugh out loud and say it. I used to, as a kid, I used to pretend I had a twin brother and we would just talk shit to each other. And like the older I got, I was like, that worked amazing. And so it worked.
What? And again, it's that pattern interrupt. Sometimes I think of myself even, like I'm in a boxing match and it's me against me. That's it.
Oh yeah,
Just me against me.
exactly. Because we're usually the ones holding ourselves back, not the economy, not anybody else, just our own actions. We look at our past 90 days and we're like, yeah, I didn't do that right.
Yeah, that's on me. What is a book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
Currently, I haven't read any books in a few months because I gorge books for years. But my favorite book of all time, I go back to it once a year, is Outwitting the Devil. The reason why is a couple years ago, I did a weekly challenge where I'd read a book a week and I learned so much stuff. And then nowadays, I literally will only read something that I need right now. And that might be something that might help somebody. I only read things that are going to help me in the present moment.
Yeah.
Not saying that's right or wrong, but sometimes, like years ago, I used to read level 10 things and I'd get excited for the dopamine hit, but I was on level one. I was like,
Mm.
I can't even use anything that I read. So I flipped the script, and nowadays I literally just read one main thing, which I need in that moment.
I'm with you. I used to consume, and now I mean, I don't really watch TV at all anymore. And
Nice.
even reading, I've kind of just I don't know, I'm in the solitude space. Final question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Keep going. Life will come full circle if you just trust and
Mm.
keep your faith strong. Keep going. Life will come full circle if you just trust and keep your faith strong. So that kid getting screamed at, getting yelled at, confused, broken, all that, just pausing and saying, you know what? This is probably a gift. There's a gift in here somewhere. And you might be able to identify that.
And that's total golden wisdom. Great note to end on. Derick, thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate it, Heather. Thanks for having me.